And we decided on the newspaper that we, for the first time, would hold this sort of meeting. And there was, in our opinion, no better place than this memorial, which some of you, or most of you may know, was paid for by our leaders and unveiled last November. Last September. And last November, of course, for Remembrance Day, we came here, and we will come here again in November. But if you think about it, there can be no greater honour, as it were, to pay those men who died in Burma in their thousands in the Second World War, for which we created this monument. No greater honour than, in actual fact, do something to avoid wars, to give peace, as Lenin said, a chance. The fact of the matter is that people who want peace sometimes get disheartened. The years go by, the wars occur, it looks as if we're in fact powerless, and many of you here would know, of course, the millions who died in Korea and Vietnam and Iraq and Afghanistan and are still dying from, effectively, chemical weapons that were used in Vietnam. Near here is a Vietnamese restaurant whose owner, in fact, collects money the whole year for children in the south of Vietnam who are most gruesomely deformed, caused by Agent Orange. And the same is happening, of course, today in Iraq. One last point I wish to make, and I'm excluding Frank Dobson, our St Pancras MP, when I use the word politicians. But I can't help and get really angry when I see politicians in their suits and ties in the House of Commons who have never been given a commanding order, never worn a uniform, never felt the fear of going into battle. Casually, and I use the word casually, because essentially that's what it is, pass motions that send our forces off to Iraq and Afghanistan, where they are still being killed. Now, can things change? I probably get as despondent as many of you here, but like you, I assume your hearts were lifted when a couple of weeks ago David Cameron's motion was defeated. It wasn't simply, and it was, I gather, the first time in Parliament. There are those who say, and it is a winning argument, that the million or so who marched in Iraq, that the effect of that march over the years and of people's views towards Iraq and Afghanistan made MPs, quite a number of them conservative MPs, conscious, especially in this internet age, that a vote for David Cameron would have been a vote lost in their constituency for themselves. And so that's why I think many of them changed their minds. Now, I wish to ask Councillor Roger Robinson, who is there, and he is a man, in fact, who has seen combat, who has tasted the blood of war. So, Roger.
It's very humble always for me when I come here to the memorial, which I had some part in putting out. I think all the days, all the millions, thousands and millions of people have died over the last 5 or 6 centuries. For what? to please somebody's desire to conquer the world. And people have died, and with all the money we spend on war, we don't spend any money on gathering peace and making a peaceful world. And those of us who have fought and seen combat will never forget what we saw, and those who were taken to their hospital afterwards, who were dying, or wounded, or whatever. And I don't know if there's any, frankly speaking, even after all these years, we are still seeking peace, and I don't think we're going to find it in my lifetime, unfortunately. And I think we should be, we can still come here every year and commemorate the memories of those who died and suffered in the camps, POW camps at the Far East. But at the same time, we should think of those who died and those who may well die in the future. We are here to look after this world for our children. But in the end of the day, we must leave them a world of peace, and that we have not got. And therefore, it is with sadness that I am here today, and I see no end to the bitterness, the internecine strife, the capitalist warfare, the lack of knowledge and lack of interest by those who are policy makers throughout the whole world. And I feel that we ourselves, as ordinary men and women, have to fight for peace. We have to be the people who fight for the world of peace and create a world of peace in our lifetime. I'd like to leave these flowers and pass the microphone back to you, and I'd like to thank you for coming. It was very kind of you.
All right, we'll do it after.
All right, thank you very much. A surprise visitor who came here, and I'm really most grateful, is the Mayor of Camden, Jonathan Simpson, who heard of it, this particular meeting, and decided on his own back to come down.
Thanks, Eric. It's a great honour to be here today and to commemorate International World Peace Day. I think the important thing today is to not just think about international conflicts or regional conflicts, but to think about also as things which are happening domestically. So domestic violence, hate crimes, and things which are very much on our doorstep. Today is a day, hopefully, when around the world people will actually have a ceasefire for one day and think about their actions and get together. But there's stuff that's happening domestically as well, which we have to take action on and have to work together on. Camden is a great place. It's largely harmonious. People largely get on. But there's things on our doorstep which we have to work on very, very strongly together to make sure that they happen, they're addressed. So it's a great honour to be here. Thank you very much, as always, to the wonderful Camden New Journal for making sure that we actually acknowledge these are important events and for the support for this important monument. And thank you very, very much to Eric.
Thank you very much. Now I've got a great feeling of elation, actually, and slight embarrassment, because I must introduce the lady here, who is 107 and has decided to come down to Lail Reef, and she spans, if you think about it, anything from the First World War onwards, and has been, to my knowledge, all her life committed to fighting for good causes, and one of them, of course, is peace. And she would say a few words. Bernard?
Just before she does, people ask Hetty, what is your secret? And Hetty's secret is she works for peace. She works tirelessly for peace. And if you want to live to 108, which you'll be in less than 2 weeks' time, keep working for peace. Now, on Hetty's behalf, I have to tell you, she can't see any of you. She can see that there is a grey slab in front of her. She's been asked to lay the wreath, but she doesn't know what's on it. And I think it's good for you all to hear the words anyway, so that you know why she's laying the wreath. So, Hetty, this is the commemoration that you've been asked to lay the wreath on, and I'm going to read you what it says. It says, in memory of the tens of thousands of British civilian and military personnel who suffered incarceration, many dying in the Far East during the Second World War, 1939 to 45, including those forced to labour on the Burma Railway. They ask for nothing but remembrance of their lives and a promise of peace for future generations. I think those are sentiments that you would agree with. Would you like to just say a couple of words?
David's got little time that's available to me, working to bring peace to the citizens on this earth. Peace is my aim everywhere. That's all I have.
Thank you. And would you like to lay the wreath?
Really, thank you, Hetty. Very hard to explain how I feel, but it's a marvellous thing that she just did. And she's quite obviously a remarkable woman. And in looking around, she's more than half a century older than many people here. A wonderful woman. Now, the next speaker is our MP Frank Dobson,
Thank you. I'm glad to be here on World Peace Day. I go around primary schools, and 2 or 3 years ago I went to one primary school and I was meeting the school council, and they were asking me questions about homework and various things like that. And then an 8-year-old girl said, do you think there'll ever be a world peace? When I recovered, I said I didn't think there would be in my lifetime, but there was a possibility that there would be in her lifetime, because we Europeans have been the most violent, murderous, genocidal people on earth, and we've devoted the last 3,000 years to try to annihilate one another. And broadly speaking, since 1945, we've learnt our lesson and given it up. Unfortunately, we haven't given up doing it to other people. And I have to say, I was elated 2 weeks ago when the House of Commons voted against bombing Syria. And I'm going to say something now which is the truth, but apparently controversial. And that is, but for one of our local residents, Ed Miliband, Syria would have been bombed by now. It was because of his decision to demand conditions that there was a vote at all, and then it was his decision, against the advice of people who referred to as senior people, that we would vote against the government's proposal. And but for his decision, as I say, Syria would have been bombed by now. And I think he deserves a great deal of credit for it. But instead of that, he's taken a lot of stick, even from people who apparently didn't want Syria bombed. I don't quite understand their position. But the other thing I'd like to say is this: we really do have to put more and more effort into trying to get away from the idea that you can bomb people into peace and prosperity. And finally, following on something that Eric mentioned, when I first became an MP, the people who were regarded as senior figures were people like Dennis Healey and Ted Heath and one or two others. And they were always against war. And one of the reasons they were always against war was that they'd actually taken part in it and been shot at. These days, the only involvement with war that any of these mysterious senior figures have ever been involved in is issuing orders, sending other people to their deaths. And so if we're going to have junior people taking decisions rather than senior people, then I think that's a step in the right direction. So I'm glad to be here. I hope that nothing we do here today is going to change things very much, but I think around the world there is an increasing revulsion against war, even in the United States, and that must be a step forward.
Thank you very much. This is the Don't Give Up Hope. Think of the vote in the Commons 2 weeks ago, and I think things can change. Every little bit of effort by individuals, however small, can help. Thank you very much.